But back to Richard Cantillon. Richard Cantillon wrote an essay about economics late in his life, and he made a very interesting observation, which is extremely accurate and completely forgotten, I think, today, or almost completely forgotten, which is that money cannot be neutral. But he said, like, if you inject money into the economy, and he had seen it firsthand, not all prices will go up the same, and not everybody will get the new money at the same time. This money, as it distributes to the system, it will lift some prices more than others, it will lift some prices faster than others, it will change income distribution, it will have all these effects. And and this is something that I think frustrates me when today we read about monetary policy, and what is almost always implicit when we are told that we have easy money to stimulate the economy, is almost that here's money injection, and we get two effects. We get a rise in GDP as the new money is being injected. There is more growth. I agree with this, but please remember, this is only short term. It will not last. It doesn't mean the economy has a lastingly higher growth potential. It's only a blip, but this will occur. That's the GDP effect. And then there is a price effect, because money will lose its purchasing power. We have a bit of inflation. So, and the argument always is, in the press and the media, is, well, right now there is not an inflation problem. Inflation, if measured in consumer prices, has been fairly contained in recent years. So if there's no inflation effect, we can all enjoy the growth effect. So, but what this misses is that all the other things that need to happen on the way of that money is injected at one point in the economy and has these effects on the price level and GDP. But it does so many things on the way to do these things. In a way, injecting money into the economy, the central bank obviously giving it to the banks, that's really how money is being injected into our economy today, is a micro change in the economy. It injects money at a specific point in the economy, not everywhere, at a specific point. But the inflation, the price index, is a macro indicator, and so is GDP. So what people have to think about is, like, well, what does this money all do on the way until it has these macro impacts? It will change many other things. It will change relative prices. It will change economic behavior. It will change the economy. Injecting money into the economy is a form of intervention. It changes lots of things. It doesn't just grease, the wheels of commerce. Now, I already said, like, injecting money into the economy today in our monetary system, or modern monetary system, this occurs at one specific point, and that's the banking system. Because if we speak about easy monetary policy and injecting money into the economy, it always happens the central bank practically buys assets from the banks, credits the banks with newly printed money. This is money that is not even circulating. It's usually money that you and I don't use, because this money is simply a book entry at the central bank, which are deposits that the banks hold at the central banks. But in our monetary system, this printed money is reserves for the banks. The banks can use it to expand their own balance sheet and create credit, and that by the expansion goes further into the economic system. So please remember, so whenever money is being injected into the economy, it has many, many other effects than just inflation and GDP. And this is where economists for a long time have looked very closely and said, what are these other effects that occur? And obviously now in a monetary economy, so we're no longer speaking about the theoretical examples of David Hume or even Richard Cantillon. That was 250 years ago. Let's look at our modern economy today. Central bank is injecting money. It lowers the refunding cost of the banks. The banks can expand their own balance sheet, and they create loans. And they can create these loans through a process of money creation. So these loans are now backed by savings. So you can extend loans in the banking system, give out more credit, fund more investment, without anybody having saved. Because you can fund it just by printing money. The central bank gives the banks the reserves, the banks can extend their balance sheet and can give credit on the basis, book entry credit, deposit money, on the basis of the reserves they got from the central bank. And again, this is a process that for a long time economists have suspected or had the concern that this is a process that will lead to a business cycle. Because if you usually, in order for investments to be funded, somebody has to save, because the resources that the entrepreneur, the corporation that ultimately invests, needs, somebody has to save. That is sort of the classic model. But if the central bank lowers interest rates, prints money, allows the banks to expand their balance sheet and fund credit and investment without savings, you can create a near-term boom, but that would ultimately end into a recession when we realize that the consumer never wanted to give up the resources that he needs for his consumption needs right now. So nobody saved, nobody was willing to redirect resources from consumption to investment and therefore ultimately support these investment projects. So the idea is here simply that printing money, lowering interest rates, injecting money into the economy at the banking system level leads to illusion of savings availability, leads to illusion of savings and encourages investment projects that may ultimately not be sustainable because they're not in line with what the public really prefers and how the public really would like to see its resources used. Now this is a theory that goes back to the 19th century. Here in Britain, it was economists like David Ricardo and others looked into this, and they already suspected that this was the cause of business cycles. So that if banks are willing to able to print money, they and lower their reserve ratios, they can cause a boom as the new money circulates into the economy. That's the ripple effect of the new money entering the system. But when this effect peters out, then the system will correct, and then there is a recession. So there's a boom and then a bust. And the best explanation and the best analysis of this phenomenon was actually provided by the Austrian School of Economics. Steve already mentioned it, in particular Ludwig von Mises, who wrote a seminal book about this in 1912. So the idea here is that elastic money is a source of economic instability. Yes, it feels great at first. It's a bit like a drug. You take it, it's great. It lowers interest rates, there's more investment activity going on. In fact, there's investment activity, and nobody is cutting back on consumption because nobody has to save. We fund the new investment projects with printed money. It's great. So there is a boom, but the boom will end. It will ultimately lead to a bust because for the economy to be balanced and stable, there has to be that balance between savings activity and investment activity. You can only do this so long with the printing money.